Something big is brewing for the Colorado Avalanche in that they have a golden opportunity this offseason to try to make a rather large trade to continue to shake up this roster and be back into the conversation of a Stanley Cup contender in the next coming years. It is an absolutely amazing opportunity that Chris MacFarland and this Avs front office has to try to make the most optimal trade that they possibly can in this offseason, acquire a player that's going to be centered around all of the stars that they have on this roster, and continue to try to find the roster that has the most depth and the highest chance of making a deep run in the playoffs in the next few years. And we are going to break everything around this big opportunity right here, right now, today on Avalanche Digest. Thanks for joining us today here at Avs Digest. Mark Robinson with you. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. If you are not subscribed to Avs Digest, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button. Currently at 97 subscribers, we're 3 away from that 100 subscriber mark. So please continue to watch these videos. And of course, if you're not subscribed, exit out of that video, hit that subscribe button, and make sure that you are locked and loaded and ready to go for the best possible place that you can find your Colorado Avalanche news. We give you daily, consistent, and accurate Colorado Avalanche news, updates, rumors, and opinions. Essentially everything you need to know about the Colorado Avalanche. So thank you very much for supporting. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Without further ado, let's dive into this massive trade that the Avs could try to make, although very unique and probably not likely. If the Avs were somehow able to pull this off, it would be absolutely insane. And that would be trading for Elias Pettersson of the Vancouver Canucks. Take a look at this little blurb here from an article online. The Avalanche have made some major moves in recent years. Obviously, we saw them trade away Mikko Rantanen to the Hurricanes, who ended up then on the Dallas Stars, who are currently in the Eastern Conference Final. Took out the Avs in the first round of the playoffs this season. Before the trade deadline, they also made a massive trade with the New York Islanders, in which they acquired veteran center Brock Nelson, in which the hope was that he was going to be able to add to the depth that the Colorado Avalanche have and what they wanted to do as far as depth and success goes in not just the end of the regular season, which they finished very strong in the regular season, but also in the playoffs. Unfortunately, the main goal of these moves was a cup or bust mentality from Chris MacFarland and the front office at the Colorado Avalanche. They were trying to get the deepest roster that they possibly could, build it around MacKinnon and Makar, those star players who are so clutch and crucial and are essentially our window to continue to be a Stanley Cup contender team. But like we said, the moves did not result in a playoff run. Colorado not just had lack of playoff success this year, but they haven't made it past the second round in 3 years. They obviously won the Stanley Cup in 2022. They lose to the Kraken in the first round of the playoffs in 2023. And then they lose to Dallas in the second round last year, and then Dallas in the first round this year. Like I said already, having MacKinnon and Makar on the roster, the team needs to be doing more. They need to be making it much deeper in the playoffs. And making a massive move could lead this team to doing exactly what they need to as far as team success goes. So let's talk a little bit about Elias Pettersson and just kind of his stats with the Canucks this season. And in a little bit here, we'll take a look more at some of his past statistics playing with the Vancouver Canucks, and also just talk more about how he could play a really crucial role in this Colorado Avalanche roster if the Avs are somehow able to pull off a trade with Elias Pettersson. So this season, 64 games played, 15 goals, 30 assists for 45 points, 45 giveaways, 22 takeaways, dash 10, not amazing on the season. But we have to remember that Elias Pettersson is one of the best centers on this Vancouver Canucks team. And a Vancouver team that did really, decent in the playoffs last year, putting up a really good fight against the Nashville Predators. And then obviously putting up a strong fight against the Edmonton Oilers as well. The Oilers would then go on to lose in the Stanley Cup in Game 7, so clearly a tough team to beat, trying to get past the Edmonton Oilers. But Elias Pettersson adds a really unique sense of hockey to the Vancouver Canucks roster. And obviously we remember that the most high priority roster aspect that the Avs are looking for is a center, especially considering they're most likely going to lose Brock Nelson, who they traded for earlier in the season for a major haul in return that went to the New York Islanders. So Elias Pettersson, his stats this season don't necessarily show how crucial an asset that he could be if the Avs are somehow able to pull off a trade with Vancouver to add him to the roster. But I think that attempting to make a trade, we can obviously also see these stats potentially bump up a little bit. And like I said, we've got some stats from Elias Pettersson in the last few seasons that we'll look at in a little bit as well, and how those stats speak to the fact that he would be a really strong fit for the depth of this Colorado Avalanche team. Another look at a piece of this article here. The Canucks seem to have lost confidence in Pettersson despite their public support of him and his play style from a coaching standpoint. And also looking from the Elias Pettersson side of things, from his perspective, he may be looking for a fresh start. Vancouver's been his home for the entire time since he's joined the league. He's obviously an elite hockey player. He wants to chase deeper playoff runs. And so adding him to a Colorado Avalanche roster that's already really strong, it could be that bump that they need to start making it deeper in the playoffs and hopefully making some sort of a run all the way past the Western Conference Final and into the Stanley Cup playoffs. So the article obviously thinks Colorado would be a great place to give Pettersson that fresh start, given his style of play, his quick skating, his quick shot, the offensive talent that he already has in place. And obviously Colorado has shown time and time again that they aren't afraid to be aggressive as far as trading goes. They've traded for people like Mikko Rantanen. They've gotten rid of players like Mikko Rantanen. They've made huge trades, overhauling tons of prospects and draft hauls for players such as Brock Nelson. They reworked their entire goalie tandem in the middle of the season. That can always be an extremely risky thing to do. So the potential to see the Avs make that big move again, targeting a player like Pettersson, could be the difference in what this roster needs and how beneficial it could be to their longevity as far as their team goes. So I teased this a few minutes ago multiple times. We're going to take a look at some of Elias Pettersson's all-time statistics. So he obviously started in the 2018-2019 season, and we talked about how last season his stats weren't necessarily amazing. 15 goals, 30 apples for 45 points. But let's look at the 2 seasons, even the 3 seasons before that. In the 2023-2024 season, he played all 82 games of the season. Very healthy, in a very strong place as a player. And of course, he put up 34 goals, 55 apples, an 89-point season. And he was a plus 20 on the season, which is phenomenal. That means he was a crucial offensive asset to the Vancouver Canucks, not the Colorado Avalanche, not yet at least. Even the season before that, the 2022-2023 season, in 80 games played, so he only missed 2 games that season, 39 goals, 63 assists for 102 points. He broke that 100-point mark, was a plus 16 on the season. Massive offensive asset, really strong player. 21-22 season, 80 games played, 32 goals, 36 assists for 68 points. So the goals continue to kind of be in that 30-ish realm. Obviously, goals were a little bit of a struggle this season, but a 68-point season there for him as well. Obviously, a +1 is kind of a little bit on the lower side for that season, but nonetheless, we can see that Elias Pettersson has had really strong offensive seasons over the last 2-3 years and continues to be an elite offensive player, offensive center in the NHL, and mixing up where he's playing a little bit and putting him on a new team and finding a new rhythm for him. And of course, there's always the conversation of whether or not higher tier players on our team, such as MacKinnon and Makar, and even if we were to hold on to a player such as Marty Necas, are to potentially elevate his game. That's another topic of conversation too. You have to ask yourself the question, if you're putting Elias Pettersson on a Colorado Avalanche team with these elite players, are you seeing these numbers go up? Are you seeing his goals go up because MacKinnon and Necas are able to give him such elite through passes and centering passes for really strong assists? Are you seeing his assists go up because the passes that he's making and the keen eye that he has as a center is allowing players like MacKinnon and Necas and other people on those 1-2 lines to just continue to score goals and be elite, electric players? So it's 100% something to consider. And with that said, we can also take a look at the lines for the Colorado Avalanche, obviously as they stand as of today. And we could even kind of play around with this and talk a little bit about where we think Elias Pettersson would fit into this Colorado Avalanche team. So of course, the number one first spot that jumps out to me is just a complete switch for Brock Nelson and Elias Pettersson. Obviously, Brock Nelson expected not to return as a UFA this offseason, probably will be going to the Minnesota Wild. So you're putting Elias Pettersson at that center role, replacing that void. You got Gabe Landeskog, the captain, who's returned from the gruesome over 1,000-day injury recovery. And then you have Val Nichushkin, the choo-choo train tank on the right side. And with Elias Pettersson in the middle, with his skill and his offensive ability, that is a frightening second line right there. You could even consider bumping Charlie Coyle up to that second line and putting Elias Pettersson on the third line and seeing how he kind of helps these slightly, less skilled players. Joel Kiviranta, if he sticks around as a UFA, and Jonathan Drouin, if we're able to land him as well. Obviously, another, top of conversation is how different this roster is probably going to look regardless of whether or not the Avs will be able to swing some sort of a trade like this. But either way, there's all sorts of different little aspects and little ways that you could try to fit Elias Pettersson into this lineup and into this sort of a way that he can be a really strong and deep player who continues to have those 80 to 100 point seasons and is, in the positives as far as his plus minus goes. So obviously, as I said, if the Avs would be able to swing something like this, it would be massive and it would really put them back into the conversation of a team that is scared, as a team that other teams are scared of and that could put up a really solid fight in the playoffs in the years to come.